Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Friday, the 28th. Holy cow, what a month we've had. First things first, before we get into the price action risk disclaimer, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any recommendations or advice. But, congratulations making it through another week, and hopefully you had a great week trading. And I kind of feel like it's end of month, but we do have, we have one more. We have one more trading day of the month, right? Let's see. Yeah, Monday is the 31st. I'm just checking the calendar on my other monitor. We got one more day, but it kind of feels like it would be perfect if the month kind of ended on a Friday. But so here is the data for the month, and I believe from the ad wizards out there, I heard, or the bean counters, I heard that this is the best August since 1986 with the amazing Mets. Or was that the different? Was that, I think that was a different Mets year, but it was the last time that the New York Mets won the World Series in '86. So I don't know what that tells you. I think the stats that I saw are when the last time the Mets won the World Series, the world. I'm just kidding. I don't know what that means when the last time that the Mets won the World Series. But listen, it's Friday. I'm joking around a little bit. But look at this performance. SPY up 7.4%, the Q's up 10%, and IWM not too shabby either, up 6.6% for the month. I'll tell you what, this kind of stands out to me that this looks like it's yearly numbers, right? When we see this number, like these types of numbers, that could be the year, right? That's basically right around the average of what the market does year over year historically. I think right around 8% SPY. So you're looking at that for the month. I mean, that's incredible. That it's an incredible month. And considering that August and September are kind of difficult times of the year to trade, now again, you have to put the little asterisk there because when it is an election year, you can buck the trend. And I think that's kind of what we're doing right now. Who knows what September brings? By the way, I think to give you one piece of information, when all these talking heads on financial media, right? When they give predictions, let me just tell you something. I don't know what's going to happen in September, and the other secret here is no one knows what's going to happen in September. Now, we could use a little bit of our trading intuition and so forth to position and so forth, but really nobody knows what's going to happen. And the best that we can do, I know that's a big shocker to some people because people, I think newer traders always look for somebody who has previous, a good track record or so forth, and is looking for somebody to kind of guide them. But I'll tell you, that's probably the best information that you could get, is that nobody really knows what's going to happen. Our job is to basically follow price action, right? It's my job to follow price action, look for setups, and kind of trade smartly right now. And I kind of added this in here, and I've left this up as well. The August, October, I said trade smart. Don't have to swing for fences around this time of year. I've had this up all August, and I'll keep that. I'm going to keep that up there because it's something that I've said. But really, what I highlighted new here is I continue to follow the trend, but trade smart and disciplined. And I think really that's what it comes down to is I really try not to every week, I do my macro analysis, and kind of look for some warning signals. And we talked a little bit about, that last weekend. I think in last weekend's video, I talked about how we saw a little bit of a warning signal, in terms of some divergences that were on the tape in terms of market breadth. But they kind of straighten themselves out through the week. Another thing that we talked about the last couple days too is the VIX. The VIX was up the last 2 days with the market up. And for a portion of today, the VIX was also higher for the day. But the closing print is the most important thing, and that's what we talked a little bit about in today's Q&A session. And it continues to be like, maybe we're rounding here a little bit, But one thing I continue to see is, here's where we peaked out, obviously, and we have a lower high here. We've got a lower high here, a lower high here, lower highs here, a little bit of an uptick here, which bouts of volatility are quite normal, by the way. We're going to see that from time to time. And that's what we have here. So another red bar. So keep in mind, we're still 24. If you zoom out, which I like to say a lot in these videos and in the trading room, we're still like not to say like this was unusual for us to be down here, because the average of the VIX over time is about a 20. So we're still a little bit heightened, and we could still fall some more here. But we'll just kind of have to continue to do our analysis. And if the market is giving us good signals, we take the signals, right? And that's really how it's been through the month of August, even though I've wanted to get a little bit more conservative. But I'll tell you, this is one of the best months that I've, in terms of August historic, I don't think I've ever had an August, in terms of performance like this. And this year has been tremendous. And I'll release all my P&Ls, I do that at the end of the month. But it's it's a crazy number, right? You could go to my Twitter feed and you could see what I did last month. This is pinned, right? I'm one of the few people I know who puts out their performance every month. But I made it kind of a mission of mine to do this starting the year, and I've been doing it every month. You could go back and you could check, even when the market did poorly, in February, I put out my performance. And I will try to continue to do that every month, right? And so you could see it. So I'm now up over 200% for the year. So it's been tremendous. And again, my whole thing here is to continue to follow the trend and price, and but trade smart and disciplined. So let's talk a little bit about, just for a quick 30 seconds, the S&P, and then I'll go over this week's performance, because I do that in these Fridays videos. But I won't spend a lot of time here once again, because there isn't a whole lot to analyze, right? And I've talked about how basically analyzing this S&P chart has kind of been a waste of time in the last 2 weeks, because it hasn't lost the short-term moving averages, and it's been continued to go up and to the right. No sell signal, right? I talked about a few days back that I had some questions about buying puts, and I said, well, you could buy puts for a hedge. That's fine, to get you comfortable with staying in the market. But I'm not going to speculate on the other side of the market going short, because there's no sell signal, right? And we trade with signals, right? And we follow the price action, rather than going out on a limb and saying, oh, I don't think we should go higher anymore, right? That's kind of more or less trading with judgment and emotion. And I really try to take that out of the equation. Now, the one thing that I would say at this point, if you put your mouse down here, to the bottom right, the RS, and again, there's been something every week for the last weeks that I don't like in particular. It doesn't mean I'm going to unwind all my positions. It just means I'm going to trade smart. So we know this RSI, and we know that when the averages tend to get over a 70, they're overbought. We're at a 78 RSI. So what does that mean, right? That the indices are this overbought? Well, they're pretty much, at this point, they're getting priced to perfection, right? If we haven't gotten, really, knock on wood, we haven't gotten any bad news recently. So what do you think is going to happen? If we get some type of bad news, the market's going to come in a little bit, right? That shouldn't be a shock to you, But, you could see the last few times, right? This is the last time that we got a bit overbought, right? We came in a little bit. Now, was it the end of the world? No, because we've been looking at how much higher we are. But the short term, if you're trading short term stuff, be careful of your risk. And that's what I mean by trading smart. The Qs are also kind of in the same predicament. Could they get a little bit more overbought? I guess. But so you have to kind of balance your risk to reward. And if you're trading short-term options, you know that you might get caught if there's a little bit of volatility next week with short-term options, right? With your stock positions, you'll be fine, right? If there's a little bit of volatility. If there's a lot of volatility, then it's a different story. But if it's a little bit of volatility and you have longer term calls, or you have stock positions on, it's not that big of a deal. But if you got short-term positions on, and whatever, something brings us off of these overbought levels, then that's what I mean in regard to trading smart. Just watching your short-term risk. IWM, on the other hand, you know, but what did IWM do for this week? I think it was just about flat for the week. Also, it was up for the week, but again, kind of continuing along this trajectory of not really doing that much, not overbought. So could IWM take the ball and run with it? It could. It's tough to really say every week, because some weeks you kind of think that IWM is going to outperform and it doesn't. And every once in a while, IWM does outperform. The weekly chart, I think, is still telling for IWM because it has not been able to get above 158.80, and that's been a level of consolidation the last couple of weeks after it had this big monster week. It did not really have any follow through. Now, the positive sign of this is it hasn't fallen back either, right? So I won't do this. I've seen somebody else's chart videos, where they start to draw different scenarios. Don't do that, because you don't know what's going to happen. I would say if we get back above 158.80, then that's an area to be long against. But there's no basic buy signal until we get over that level, right? So that's important to keep an eye on. Could value start to outperform a little bit more? Let's just take a quick look at that. The value to growth relationship, right? You know that we've seen a couple of weeks of outperformance of value, but then growth really takes over from there, right? So IWD versus IWF, right around the lows, right? This is value in the numerator, growth in the denominator. And if we look at, that's large caps. If we look at small caps, which has been acting a little bit differently, value at least has stopped going down versus growth over basically since July. So it's going to be an interesting month next, and it's one of those things where it's this market has been the greatest show this year, and besides sports and everything else that's been going on. So I look forward to the next month to go over performance just for today. Like I said, the VIX I think was a big tell for the day. It kind of melted throughout the session. It hit a high of 26 at 11 o'clock today, and then closed at below 23. So that's the only thing that I've got highlighted. You could see overall, again, we see more of the move in the overnight session. This is what the performance was for the day. You could see small caps actually led, by the way, today, but not very big performance throughout the session, right? That's been the story over time, that during the session, the indices don't move that much. They move greater in the overnight session. If you're not familiar with that, Google that. What makes more money, overnight session or intraday session? It's the overnight session. All right, so that's that. Bonds, I think, are also, I forgot to mention this, I think, in yesterday's video, but this could also be telling for the next, I think something to watch in the next couple weeks is what bonds do. Do bonds actually start to break down? They're below value at this point. TLT is now below value for the month. And notice that the value area, we're going to open up right around the bottom of value, possibly, right? We still have one more trading day. And we could start the month below value. That would be pretty bearish, I think, for bonds. Also, if you look at the longer duration, remember TLT is only about 20-year, is 20-year plus in that portfolio of bonds. ZB is longer dated futures, and you could see this was a decisive break of value, right? This was the retest and fail, right? So bonds were up today. The long bond was up 9%, but again, this is kind of broken, right? Broken below value. Let's see what this looks like on the yearly, the weekly chart, which gives you the year value area. I mean, we're still way above value, so it could be an interesting dynamic to see if that happens, right? If remember, this is inverse related, so this is the price of bonds. As bonds go down, that means yields are going higher, right? Yields going higher are generally better for the banks, and maybe a little bit indirectly bad for tech, right? Because you value tech, based a little bit on what interest rates are doing. So, so I think we'll have to keep an eye on what the move in rates ends up doing. So for today, before I get to this week's performance, I'll just talk a little bit right? I'll just talk a little bit about today's trades. I did not come into today with like a whole bunch of ideas. Sometimes I do, you know, by doing my scanning of charts, I have a bunch of ideas, but I didn't really have like a ton of names that were jumping off the page to me. And that's a good, going back to this, right? Trading smart, right? If you are not seeing trade setups that are jumping off the page to you, then in my opinion, don't take the trade. I think, again, we're younger traders, and I know we've got a lot more younger traders present in the market. That's why I always mention some things about younger traders. They are always concerned about how much money they're going to pull in by trading the market. You'll find that the really good traders, and again, I have nothing against newer traders. I love that there's more participation by younger traders. It is great to see that, where there was an interest a few years ago by younger traders. They could care less about the market. Now they like it, and really that's gets you excited to see the younger generation get involved in stocks, because to me it's fun. To get involved and start to trade. But you have to think about, once you get more experienced, and really the good traders out there are worried about their bankroll, how much they could possibly lose, right? They're obviously playing to make money, but they're more concerned about their risk. If you're putting on trades just to have something out there so that you think you're going to make money, that's where you get hurt. All right. So trading smart, making sure that, if you don't have a signal, now you can mess around a little bit if you're okay with doing that. Like, so in quotes, gambling a little bit, you could do that with a small amount of money if you want to on Fridays and Friday lottos and things like that. I do that every once in a while with a very small amount of money. But overall, you really want to take trades. Like, if they're not jumping off, if they're not screaming to you buy, where there's a nice signal, don't trade don't just trade to trade. Right? Make sure that there's something that is actually giving you a signal. And I think with the markets, as I went over with the indices getting overbought, with the RSI as heated as it is, you don't want to be just putting on trades just to have exposure at this point. So big difference between, as I said, having exposure, trading smart, versus just throwing on trades try to with the goal of making money. That is where you get hurt in this market. So just to review my trades, so what I saw today was, I wasn't even looking at this chart in Roku, and we started to see that repeat, like what I like to refer to as like rapid fire call buying or machine gun call buying, right? So if you go to our, this was something that I had mentioned at 9:52 is, look at all these little call buyers coming in here, right? And then I try to provide, and then I take the trade. If it's there, if I see a signal, I jump on it, right? Because it's jumping off the page to me, or at least it's got an opportunity. And what I noticed with this Roku, you could have gotten to this Roku, I guess, yesterday. I didn't notice because there's been so many movers. And by the way, you can't catch every one of these movers that we've had this week. It's been tremendous, but you'll go crazy if you think that you're going to catch every single one of these momentum plays. So trade what you can, and try to trade what you're trading very well. Instead of jumping from one position to the next but because, again, I see a lot of traders doing that, when meanwhile, if you just stick in the trade that you're in the first place and manage it well, you don't have to worry about jumping from the next to the next to the next, and over trading. But Roku, I did not see that this real nice green candle got you over value area for the month. You had a little bit of an inside day, and then this thing went today, and the call buyers kind of gave that clue for the day. So really nice momentum, and so here's how I traded it. Again, I always show you full transparency. So in Roku, and then I started taking targets. Ultimately, 180 is where I think this thing could get to, in the short term. I don't want to define this thing so much, but here's where we have a Venom, right, which the market webs give us a great roadmap of what to do. So I started taking some targets here, and 173, 176. I also tried to trade a little bit of Adobe. I saw, I was looking for some continuation based on, some of the other earnings that were out in Workday. It didn't. Where did this thing end up? Because I bailed on this one. Don't be afraid to bail on trades too, because you'll find the next good one. So 2 inside days for Adobe. So we'll see if this resolves itself. Maybe it needs a little bit more consolidation here, but I was just looking for basically a day trade. So I got out of that trade and went on to some other stuff. And freeing myself up from this trade that wasn't doing anything, right? Out of this for a small loss. I got into some better trades. Right, I got into DRI. I started to notice the strength in all the restaurants, or you could call them casual diners. Right, so that we talked about this Cracker Barrel early. I know these were also mentioned on CNBC, but it's nice to be in these trades. Right, so nice move. So these are not my favorite plays. So you have to understand how you're going to trade these things. Cracker Barrel is not where I set up shop to put on a big size position and a big swing trade. But if I can ride some momentum in it for the day, which is basically what I did in Cracker Barrel and what I did in more so in this DRI, which was up 4.8% today. I just noticed that every one of these, call them casual dining, your restaurant type, chain restaurants, I guess is another way that you could describe them. They were all, just cruising today. Look at this Brinker. It was up 13%. So I didn't catch this one. I did notice the performance early on, but this thing closed on the highs today. So I did get involved in this one, and I just decided, you know what? I took it off at the end of the day. All right, and then I took off a couple other trades too. So again, just paring down a little bit of risk. It's what I do every so 490 and 460 out of Cracker Barrel. Again, I don't want to stay in Cracker Barrel for more than a day trade, for more than a scalp. Starbucks, on the other hand, this is another trade that we got into yesterday. I actually traded Starbucks twice this week. I got out for profits, kind of waited to see how it was going to look and got back into this. I'm still holding a little bit of that. I'm still holding a little bit of Disney, but notice that I'm taking targets along the way, right? No one goes broke or has issues, taking profits like this, right? So that's the whole key for me. And then we'll see if these things have a little bit of legs to them next week, right? So in still a little bit of Disney. And the reason why I'm in, I'm in here is because Disney, I think, could rage up to possibly this version point of control about 141. Also, go back to Starbucks, right? And Starbucks also has a version point of control that I'm shooting for, right? So notice I've been in these for this whole move. So now it's the last piece. I try to get that final target, right? And then that's it. One trade I got out of the other day, which had a huge day today, was Visa. Out to a 52-week high. So remember, I was on Bloomberg a couple weeks ago talking about that trade, and again, I was one of the first ones. I know I get copied. It's okay, but I was in. I tweeted out the Visa setup probably before. If you go back and you check the tape, I tweeted it out before anybody else was, or for the most. I don't want to say anybody else because I'm not the only trader out there, but Visa was a really nice setup out of that box. Right, out of value. So really nice. And I was on TV talking about it. All right, so moving on. So that's basically it, guys. Performance for the week. You could see SPY was up 3.3%. Diamonds up 2.7%. Small caps underperformed, but still up 1.6% for the week. Q's up 3.8%. And gold was also up. Look at the move in the solar names. My goodness. I'm still holding some SEDG as well as some ENPH. Those were 2 trades that we put on earlier in the week. So really nice performance there. I'll tell you, I'll mention just one more concept here. The video is already 24 minutes long, but I don't do a video Saturday morning, so you could kind of use this. But great example with this solar ETF just continues to make more and more highs. I've said this before about younger traders or other trading services where they oversimplify the trade for people. I know that newer traders, they like to know where to take the trade off all the time. It's better to sit with the trend until you get a sell signal. And I will tell you, right? Like, let's say, I mean, I've owned this thing now for over a year, but if you basically, if when you're in a trend like this, and I've explained this in previous videos, the best thing to do is just sit on your hands. And then when you get a sell signal, then make an adjustment, right? That's how you really make the larger profits in this game. It's not by defining $5 price targets. So I've been in this. And if you're a trend trader, what you get used to and what you begin to get comfortable with is the fact that you're not going to catch the absolute top. Now, you could sell some here if you like, because it's probably a little bit extended, but it's been extended now for 2 months. So, yes, you could take some money off the table here. That's fine. But if you would cap your profits, right, you could have said, oh, this is as far as it could go. This is as far as it could go. This is as far as it could go, right? Then you missed out on this last leg. Right? So when this thing finally gives the sell signal, you're not going to be able to get the absolute top. But you've been in the game the whole way up. Right? And that's a lot better than saying, oh, using your emotion and saying, oh, this is too much. Or this is too much. I'm going to take it off when there's no sell signal. So I don't know what to say. That is something that you learn with experience and you learn with trend trading, is to not define every little trade saying I'm going to take it off here, because this thing has broken out of this thing, since just a month ago. This was at 40. It's at 56, right? So that's the whole thing. That's how, like, to me, that's how you make yourself like a little bit of a better, more experienced trader, is you realize that you're not going to get the tippy top because no one can predict the tippy top, right? So if you give back, like if you make, so let me put it in numbers. If you make 80% riding the trade and you give back the last 5%, wouldn't you be okay with a 75% up trade? Or in other situations, there's been trades that are up 200% year to date, and you give back the last 5 or 10%. Are you going to be happy with a plus 190%? Or were you super happy because you just got a 20% profit, and that was the end of your trade? Or would you rather get that 190%? Right? Now, again, this is not the case in every situation, but you got to learn to stay in these trades. And I see too many newer traders saying, where do I take it off? Where do I take it off? When there's no sell signal. So again, it takes time and it takes some experience to be able to stay in this stuff. The other thing, of course, and we're going to be giving a webinar on this next week about 2 of the mistakes that younger traders or newer option traders make, is putting too much size on so that they get shaken out of positions, and trading too many short-term options as well, which is a recipe for disaster because you can't predict short-term movements. Nobody can. I get questions a lot in the trading room about, what do you think this stock's going to do today? I have no clue. But I know how to trade it, but I don't know minute by minute what a stock is going to do. Nobody does. And that's something that you have to get comfortable with as a trader. Okay, so let's wrap this up. The weekly watch list that we do. So let me just bring this up because I'll be putting out a new one, and I talked about this in last week's video. Look at the performance that we did again, right? So I am buying these on the open, and then I sell them at the end of the week. But look at Shack. We put Shack, Facebook, Baba, ServiceNow, Abbott, Honeywell, Crowd. Look at how many names were up over 5%. Now, I had a stinker on 2 stinkers this week, and this is equally weighted, by the way. But Chegg was down 8%. Autodesk didn't do anything on earnings, and Etsy was down 8%. So 2 stinkers in here, but look at how many made up for that. right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names over 8%, right? So one of these cancels out, or two of the 8 cancel out the negative names, right? So I'm buying that every Monday and selling it at the end of the week. So we'll continue to do that next week. That'll be in the member videos that we put out. And I think, as far as I've been counting this, I started doing this a couple weeks ago, but putting on the trade on Monday. You could do this in what's called M1 Finance. You could do this in Folio as well, where they don't charge you commission to basically put together like a basket trade like this. And we've been outperforming. So, what did the S&P do this week? Up 3.3%. So yes, we outperformed of 3.9%. So that's another check mark for us for another week of outperformance with this trade. And again, how I'm going through this is I give everybody a video. It's about a half hour long, and I walk through every chart that's in and talk about the setup that's in place for all of these names on Sunday. And that's a starting point for the week. Of course, we trade a whole bunch of other things. Some newer traders in the room asked me, they're like, well, how come you traded this name? It wasn't on the watch list. Because this is just a starting point for the week. We're going to find more setups as the week materializes, as the market changes. So anyway, this is the performance of the overall sectors for the week. So that's it, guys. This video is 30 minutes long. That's longer than it should be. But it's exciting, right? This has been an exciting month and a lot to review and a lot of things to kind of improve on. Everybody needs to improve as a trader. You never get to the point where you're like, aha, I figured out this market. No, there's always things that you need to improve on no matter what level you are. I'll leave it there, guys. Have a great weekend, guys. Relax, get outside, do some exercising. And have fun. This has been awesome. So thank you guys for being members. If you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group and you want a disciplined approach to your trading smart and so forth, just click on the pin link on my profile page and you can get involved here. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.